as we continue to go over some basics of the Singer SE9180, I'm going to give you some tips along the way of changing stitch length, changing stitch width, and also needle positions. And you'll get to see as I kind of change things, we'll sew them out as you go. And I would recommend that if this is a new machine for you, that you take the time to kind of play around. Just take a piece of fabric, always fold it in half, always sew on 2 layers. You're going to get a better result. And then just give it a go. So when you turn the machine on, you're going to notice you're going to start off with a stitch number 1, and let's look at the stitch length. So it says 2.5 millimeters. Now I know not everybody's used to millimeters, but I think when we sew, this is one time that it kind of makes sense. You start to get used to it a little bit of how long a stitch is. That is a nice medium length. So as we start to sew, it always starts with a couple locking stitches, and that's because I used the thread cutter the last time I took my fabric out of the machine. And so it starts with just some locking stitches to get us started. As we stop, that's when you can increase the stitch length. And you'll notice that if you are sewing on thicker fabrics, you will want a longer stitch length. So if you ever think of having to really push the fabric through, otherwise you're getting little teeny tiny stitches, all you need to do on this machine is actually lengthen the stitch length and it will do the work for you. Those teeth underneath, the feed dogs, will pull the fabric through without you having to work at it. So it will go all the way up to a length of 5. And then we can also go back down. Here's another little tip, just so I don't forget to tell you. If you touch stitch number 1 again, it will clear it out back to the normal default settings. So did you notice that when I changed the stitch length, it highlighted black? So if you ever see on something that I'm showing you and those numbers are highlighted black, that means I am not on the default setting anymore. So you can shorten this with little tiny stitches. You might use a 1.6 for paper piecing or just a really fine fabric, and somewhere in that 2 range for silk, or some people like to do 2.0 for piecing their blocks together if you're a quilter. So just kind of keep in mind, you'll find the stitch length that you like the best. As you go to a zigzag stitch, for example, stitch number 10, watch right here as we start to adjust the stitch width. So this shows a little zigzag part. 4 millimeters is what it comes up as, and watch, it increases as we make adjustments. So what is the widest setting this machine will stitch? It is 7.0, so 7 millimeters wide. That's a big stitch. That is actual size. So what you see on your screen, that is actually what you're going to get. So you can, wow, that's a really wide stitch, and we can make it even wide and long, so we can lengthen that out also. Let's see what that max, oh my gosh, that's a really big stitch. I'm going to run out of real estate here because I'm right at the end of my fabric, but let's just take a look at how big that is, and does that match our screens? A lot of people, oh yeah, see right there at the end? That is exactly what you see right here. So I love that fact about this machine. So you can actually change the width and length for all the different stitches. We do talk about when we are stitching out a sampler of all the stitches, or we call it a stitch book, is some people will go in and actually make these stitches maybe a little bit more petite, or maybe a little bit more elongated, and all of a sudden you have a different stitch than what you started out. And so you can actually have this stitch and other styles just by adjusting the width or the length of it. And have some fun with the decorative stitches as well. I mean, there is so many stitches in this machine, but you can really have some fun by making them longer or maybe a little bit more not so tall, and you can have a whole new stitch look compared to what it started off with. The last thing I want to talk about is needle position. So first off, look at stitch number 1. You do see the needle is in the center needle position. Stitch number 2, the needle position is over there on the far left side, and stitch 3 on the far right side. So at a quick glance, you can either be center, left, right with just a touch of a stitch. So What about all those needle positions in between? That's what this little part is for. So we can actually, oh my gosh, those are really small increments. That means that there's a lot of needle positions as we move from center all the way to the right or all the way to the left. So you can even hear the machine, click, 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 as it moves all the way from one direction to the next. So people always ask me, well, why would I want to sew with needle positions that aren't center? Well, for one, when I sew zippers, I do usually need the needle a little bit closer to the zipper teeth. That's one place I use it. When I'm top stitching, I want to stitch right along the edge. I can really fine tune exactly where I want the needle position to land, depending on the technique or thickness of my fabric. I can get exactly, dial it in exactly where you want it. Sometimes when I'm doing stitch in the ditch, I need to have the needle just a little to the left or to the right. That makes it easier than always having to shift the fabric as you're stitching in the ditch. And there's so many more things, but if you just know that your needle position option is there, or by choosing stitch 2 or 3 as desired, you will find that you have access to any position you want that straight stitch to be in. You do see the triple straight stitch has that same feature over here with stitches 4, 5, and 6. So you can do that, plus still move those left or right. So those are great features that are included with this machine. So just take some time, do some stitching, adjust some widths and lengths, and notice how versatile this machine is with all the settings and all the stitches that are built in. So I hope if you have liked this video, make sure you click like and don't forget to subscribe. All the free video tutorials on the Singer SE9180 are hanging out in a playlist. You'll find that link here at the end of this video or in the description below. Happy sewing!